I read the report, and it's like, what is left to be said here? It seems very obvious to us what should be done, but nonetheless, why don't you take us through it?
So the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, which most people already recognize as being a Marxist bastion of just awfulness, has been funding and promoting organizations that are engaged in the promotion of abortion, contraception, homosexuality, and Marxism since its inception. And this goes back 50 years now. And you know, I've been writing about this. I've been exposing various organizations receiving funding from the CCHD, and the CCHD always has some excuse. Well, you know, they didn't really promote abortion. It was just some low-level volunteer that went ahead and promoted it on social media on their behalf. Mm-hmm. So what makes this report different from all of the others that I've done, Faith in Action is a massive network that the CCHD has had a very intimate relationship with since 1972, when it was originally called the PICO Network. And anyway, the organization itself, from the very leaders at the top, took a formal position against the overturning of Roe versus Wade and declaring that they were going to be fighting in favor of so-called reproductive rights.
Wow. Wow. I mean, what else do you need, right? I mean, if you're going to fight for abortion, golly gee whiz, that and nickel, I mean, you should just understand that this is completely contrary to the Catholic Church's teaching on faith and morals, and yet we are seemingly aren't going to do anything about this.
Apparently, and what's more, I caught the CCHD, defending Faith in Action back in 2020. Mm-hmm. We had produced a series of reports showing that Faith in Action was actively electioneering on behalf of Joe Biden and several other Democrat candidates. And at that time, we even found several instances of them promoting abortion, promoting homosexuality and that kind of thing. Yeah. And the CCHD came out with a vigorous defense. It was just, this was a misunderstanding, and it wasn't as bad as Leponto Institute's using incendiary rhetoric and all this stuff. And it's more of the same. But at this point, I don't know how they can deflect. I really don't.
According to your report, Faith in Action has, and all of their collective organizations have received $4.8+ million from the Capital Campaign for Human Development. I don't know, how far back does that go?
That goes back to 2016 when Faith in Action, when it was PICO, got a $500,000 national grant from the CCHD. What's interesting about that particular grant is that it was either the next year or the year after that Faith in Action or PICO completely rebranded as Faith in Action. So it's almost like that $500,000 grant helped Faith in Action change its entire perspective and its entire approach to things. And it was then that they really started to morph into this pro-abortion, pro-contraception, pro-Marxist agency.
Now, so putting the abortion issue just to the side for just 1 second here, and I will definitely going to come back to it, and the smoking gun that's in this report is, smoking guns. It's an arsenal of smoking guns, basically. But nonetheless, what does Faith in Action actually do? Besides the abortion issue, what else do they do that we might say, hey, that's a good thing? But what is it? What is their main charism?
So Faith in Action basically bills itself as an agency that helps social, community organizing and goes to help immigrants and it does a lot for the Black community, allegedly. But we have to remember these community organizing groups that get funding from the Campaign for Human Development, they don't do direct services. They're not helping people get jobs. They're not helping people get, food and housing and clothing and anything like that. They're doing political agitation. And the whole focus of the political agitation is to enact change. Whether that change is good or bad doesn't really matter. They just need to continue to do political agitation until they get what they want. And sometimes they'll start with something very innocuous, like we need to get a stoplight put in at this street corner because people keep getting run over. Wow. And they'll organize the community, but what they do is they get them all angry. They have to get them all angry and upset and march around and yell at the politicians until they get what they want. and then the community leaders, and this is all in Rules for Radicals. It's all Saul Alinsky's blueprint.
Yeah.
They then move on to the next issue, and then the next issue, and they build an organization. They make money doing this, and then they start pushing social issues, and they start pushing economic issues, and a lot of it, and it always trends toward the same direction: Marxist, immoral agitation.
So $4.8 million to stir up political controversy, essentially.
Essentially, yeah.
Golly, Jewish, could you imagine if we have given $4.8 million to evangelization, $4.8 million to a soup kitchen, $4.8 million to a homeless shelter,
to a pro-life shelter.
Yeah, $4.8 million to buy portable showers for the homeless. I mean, I can think of a lot of things that $4.8 million would be an amazing spend on to push those, corporal works of mercy and charity that we believe in. But $4.8 million to support our political rivals, $4.8 million to stir up community action for someone's personal agenda doesn't seem like a good spend of money, of donor dollars. Has CCHD taken a big hit in recent years? I mean, how have their coffers fared in all of this?
That's hard to tell because as a religious organization, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is not obliged to produce a 990. So we don't know what the income aspect looks like. I can look at their annual reports, but their annual reports don't tell me how much went to a particular group. It just tells me what their budget is at the end of the year. So it could be that, the CCHD has taken a massive hit in the collection, but then they're reallocating funds from the general fund of the USCCB in order to make up the shortfall. We don't know.
Wow. So they treat the USCCB kind of like the diocesan fund that happens every year. So every parish has to pay the tax to the diocese. So the dioceses are doing the same back to the USCCB.
Yes. Oh, yes. Every diocese is paying into the USCCB.
Okay. So I was thinking maybe we vote with our checkbooks, but at the end of the day, there's still a check being cut no matter what, it seems like. Maybe you can share with us some of the more shining examples from your report, Michael.
The main thrust of it comes from a press release that was put out on June 24th of this year, the very day that Roe versus Wade was overturned. Faith in Action put out a press release. It was on their website. And the headline says, Faith leaders stand with women after SCOTUS decision, demand access or expanded access to what they called maternal care. It's ironic that they call it maternal care, considering everything that they say in this is all about abortion. The headline, or the opening paragraph says, clergy and organizers with Faith in Action, the largest grassroots faith-based organizing network in the United States, are speaking out against today's Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. So right there, right at the very beginning, they're out with it. And I think, honestly, they say things like the executive director, Alvin Herring, says it's a huge blow to women in this season of despair. We have to speak out against dangerous policies that chip away at having agency over their own bodies. He says it is our job to stand against policies that make the lives of women more difficult. So, they kind of twist the language in such a way it's not even recognizable as English. But I think the most egregious statements had to do with comparing abortion to something that God wants. Reverend Dr. Cassandra Gould, who's the senior strategist for Faith in Action, she said, the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe not only puts those who inequities have caused to be perpetual, this is badly worded, by the way, underprivileged such as poor women, black women, and other women of color at risk, but it also inherently shows contempt for the Creator. So overturning Roe shows contempt for the Creator. I mean, talk about an ironic statement.
Yeah, no, that's calling the good bad and bad good. That is some dangerous language right there. That you would put that into the mouth of our Lord. It's that is blasphemous. Yeah.
Well, it gets worse because Reverend Camilla Hall Sharp, who is on the clergy organizing board, said that as a follower of Jesus, I believe my rage aligns with his. Yeah. So this is
crazy.
This is straight up blasphemy.
Yeah. I mean, the report is filled here with the actual documented evidence. But let me ask this, because not all that long ago, I happened to witness firsthand a bishop make statements about reports that have come out of Leponto, and the fact that they don't. It's clear that they're not ever reading your reports. Like they're only basically going off of what they've been told by someone else in response to your reports, but they don't ever read the reports. And it's something you and I have discussed in the past on the show. So you've got the staff at the USCCB who kind of do these things, and the bishops that don't have time to deal with it or look into it or willfully look the other way. They are claiming, ignorance in this, or they give themselves the pass because they're never actually reading any of the reports. And I just shake my head and I'm like, golly gee whiz, I don't know what else Michael and the Leponto can do besides provide you the plain facts.
Right. Well, I can only do so much, but listeners and faithful Catholics can do a lot more by printing out the report, going and having a meeting with your bishop. Make a meeting with the bishop and say, Your Excellency, I'd like to have a meeting with you to talk about donations to the diocese. Don't give him any details about what else you want to talk about. Just say, I want to talk about donations to the diocese. And I'm sure he would be more than happy to sit down to talk to you about that kind of thing. And then you pull out the report and you say, now, before I give anything to the diocese, can you explain this? And let him explain it. And if he can't, tell him we're not giving a dime until this goes away.
Now, Michael, this is something that I was thinking about when we were talking at the end of the last segment. The idea of not giving money to your diocese because of this is, at first, your first thought is, okay, well, we have to stop this, so let's stop donating to it. But then if you don't stop donating to it, they're going to just take the money out of your diocese. And then we have an obligation to try to take care of our parish, take care of our diocese. And it's a trickle-down effect because of the bureaucracy of the USCCB. If we don't give to our parish, then the diocese is going to take it directly from the parish anyway. So no matter where you stop paying, they're going to get the money, or they're going to shut down your diocese. So what can we do other than what you just suggested? I'm also thinking of as a possibility of, can bishops pull out from the USCCB? Can they say, hey, we're, as the Diocese of Wichita, Kansas, we are not going to be participating in the USCCB until this is cleared up? Is that something that the bishops can do? What's the deal here?
So to answer the last question first, yes, a bishop can pull out of the USCCB and does not have any obligation to it whatsoever. A bishop is sovereign in his own diocese, and the USCCB or bishops' conferences themselves have no canonical status. It has no authority. So a bishop, yeah, he can pull out. In terms of the problem of taxed parishes and taxed dioceses, the thing that I always recommend, first of all, if you write your check and put in the memo section, when you write a check to the USCCB or to your parish, you put in the memo section that this is for lights, or this is for the electric bill, or this is for the building fund, or this is for vestments, or this is for obtaining more hosts. Whatever it is that the parish needs, if you put in the memo line that this is for that particular thing, it has to go to that particular thing. Now, conversely, money is fungible, right? So if you give to one particular thing, then you know that you're displacing money so that the diocese can take other things. However, if everybody itemized exactly what was getting funded at the parish level, then none of it could be taken from the diocese. So that's something to consider. Something else. There is discussion among some parishes to create what's called a parish fund, which is a 501c3, totally separate entity from the parish, run by a parish council, and then instead of giving to the parish itself so that the bank account of the parish can be taxed by the bishop, people then give money to this foundation, this parish foundation, and then the foundation says, okay, Father, what do you need paid for? We'll pay for it. And all of the payments for the particular parish comes out of that foundation, and then nothing in that can be touched by the diocese at all. So that's another solution to the problem.
Yeah, it's a tricky piece of business, but ultimately, this is why my family doesn't give to the Capital Campaign for Human Development anymore, and I'm sure a lot of families don't, but as I think Adrian was pointing out, it's so complicated now that I don't see it being lacking in funding. But nonetheless, do you, it's obvious to me, but I want your take on this. Do you think the Usccb will continue to fund Faith in Action in spite of the overwhelming evidence?
I think that there's a real possibility that they're going to be forced to sever ties with Faith in Action, because there really is they can't explain this away. They can't just sweep it under the rug like they've done with so many other things. This is so just in your face and up front that they can't just walk away from it. So I think that there is a possibility that they'll have to defund Faith in Action, but they're going to do so quietly.
What would spark that? What would force that issue?
More coverage. Just outrage from parishes where people are calling the dioceses every day. What are you doing about Faith in Action? What are you doing about Faith in Action? Go to your priests. Have your priests call the diocese, the good ones anyway, good priests call the diocese and say, this is ridiculous. I can't possibly collect for this collection as long as you guys are funding a group that has taken this open stance in favor of abortion. How can we possibly do that? So it's all about really pounding the phones, getting the message out, and trying desperately to get bishops to withdraw from the CCHD. And I do think convincing the good bishops, the few that there are in this country, to say we're done, and to personally and publicly withdraw from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development and say, we can't possibly participate in this. If bishops started doing that, they would have to address this issue.
Yeah, and this is also something you and I have discussed in the past as well. And one of the things I love about your website is you have on your report, on your homepage, charity reports. So if you're out there and you go to lepontoin.org, you can see charity reports there. It's just /charity-reports. And you will see a list of charities, because it's like, come on, Michael, they're trying to do something good, for crying out loud. Why are you so critical? But the reality is there is a list of organizations that do great things and aren't actual heretics and against us in the church. Why not just give them the money instead? And I love this list. Tell us about this list real quick.
So we have a list of nearly, I think it's about 90 different organizations that we've profiled, going over, it started with organizations that we've found to be just awful. And we had people saying, well, where can we give? And I started looking through and I said, okay, well, let's find some good organizations. And we started looking, people would say, well, what about this one? Or what about that one? And we found a lot of really good ones, like the Cardinal Kung Foundation, or the Aid to the Church in Need is also very good. We also recommend Caritas in Veritate, Cross Catholic Outreach, Catholic World Mission. So there are quite a few good organizations that are worthy of receiving Catholic funding, and just avoid the ones that talk about social justice, because those tend to be the ones that are really bad.
Yeah, and not every one of these organizations that you have marked as safe on this list are even Catholic. So it's not even trying to play that game. It's the organization does not oppose us on faith and morals. They're doing corporal works of charity. They're doing great things. So why not support them, fan their flame? If that's the intent of grant money from donors around the Catholic Church in America, then these are okay organizations. And I love that. It's super easy to read this report and say, okay, this one is not safe and that one is safe. Green versus red. Super straightforward. And this might be a great tool to take to that meeting with the bishop to say, Your Excellency, Your Eminence, here's the organizations we'd love to see get some of that $4.8 million of our hard-earned money, in spite of inflation, in spite of sending trillions and billions to overseas interest. Let's do this instead. Praise be to God. Michael Hichborn, thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much. God bless you.
Check them out online, lepontoin.org. Check out the report. Check out the charity list. Hey, at the top of the hour, Gabriel Castillo will be our guest. Otherwise, we'll see you back here tomorrow morning. God bless you. God love you. Check us out online, graonline.com.